Okay, hello everyone. So we will discuss about how satellite communication is transforming enterprises, and today we've got with us Dr. PK Jain. He's a director with Inspace, and we've got Mr. Anil Bhardwaj. He's an advisor at TRAI. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining this. But I think in the last year or so, 12 months to 18 months, you've seen a lot of activity in the satellite space. We've seen the satellite policy, which came out in April 2023. We've seen the new telecom bill, which talked about spectrum being given to satellite companies on an administrative basis. And I think the entire sector is being opened up to the private players. So let me come to you, Dr. Jain. In your view, how is this sector really opening up, and how would the private enterprises gain from the policy of 2023 and then the telecom policy of the new telecom policy which just got announced a few weeks ago?
So thank you, Prashant, for this question. Three things. The space sector reforms were brought in by the government of India. Now it is about 2 years. And of course, the subsequent to that, we have seen a lot of activities. And as you rightly mentioned that, we have seen the Indian Space Policy 2023 was brought in. We have seen that the FDI policy, which is now around the corner. We also have seen now the recently, as you mentioned, the telecom bill, which was passed, of course, which has the certain component of the satellite and then Satcom also. It's an entire telecommunication bill. And in space, the Indian National Space Promotion Authorization Center was opened. It started functioning. And so as a part of that, a lot of activity in the Indian space sector. We have seen the increase in number of startups in the space sector, which was almost about in a single digit the 2.5 years ago. Now today we are talking about something around 200 startups in the space sector. We have seen the investment, the global investment to the Indian space sector that has shooted up, and in the last 2 years. In fact, the last year itself, we have got the double of the total cumulative investment, which was there till 2021. So all these are the good
And
signs.
so how much is that investment? How much investment are we seeing, sir? How much investment has come?
100 million. In 2022, we have more or less roughly 100 million. In 2023 also, we have already crossed the also the 110 or something million. So that way, this last 2 years, this is a substantial increase. So in summary, yes, there is a lot of activity, there is a lot of excitement on the government front, on the industry front, in general, all the stakeholders. There is a very conducive atmosphere for the Indian space economy, especially the share of the Indian space economy to the global economy to increase. There is a certainly good environment. We'll see that there are a lot of activities in the coming years also.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Jain. Anilji, what is your view on the entire reforms, and how do you see this really shaping out, and how would we gain as a nation?
Thank you, Prashant. One thing is very clear that on the policy front, as Dr. Jain just pointed out, with the formation of Inspace and the 2023 satellite policy, followed by the telecommunication bill, which has removed all the clouds about how will the satellite get the spectrum. There was a lot of discussion around that for the last 6 months, which has now become very clear. So I would say, if you look at the basic contours of policy, that is the predictability, certainty, and transparency. All three have been ticked by the government, either through Inspace, by formation of Inspace, or through this telecommunication bill. And all three leading players, that is Geo Satellite, OneWeb and Starlink, knocking at the doors of India to make satellite communication, something which will be used for common public very, very soon. So I am sure we are on the right path. And the game-changing provision, I would say, is taken by the Department of Space through this policy, where the private sector can now launch their own satellite by getting the slots from Indian space agencies. So I am sure we are in for very, very high level of activity and development in satellite space in the near future.
Right. And sir, just one more question to you, Anilji, that even today, if you are looking at providing satellite services, right, and satellite services, telephony satellite services, so there are multiple licenses which are required to be obtained. There's no single license, right? You need to take an ISP license, you take a GMPS license, and obviously there is a clarity now that the spectrum would be given on an administrative basis, but is there going to be a charge for that spectrum? I'm sure TRAI is working on that day in, day out. But how do we simplify this? Is there not in some of the countries in the US, for
Prashant,
example,
your
there's a
question
single.
has 3 or 4 parts. I'll start from first. When you look at multiple licenses, thanks to the new telecommunication, and I'll call it Telecommunication Act, even though it is yet not notified for implementation, which I'm sure somebody in Ministry and DOT would be working overnight to come out with rules and immediately, start notifying the section. There is a clarity on authorization, there is a clarity on single processes for a single kind of thing. So I am sure through the rules, the ministry and DOT will take care of this concern which you have raised. The second part, administrative allocation, there is a long-standing formula through which the WPC has been allocating administrative spectrum. As of now, I don't see, this is my personal view, not the organization view, because there is something happening and which is in process, so I should not be commenting on that. With that disclaimer, as on date, there is no reason for anybody to wait for anything, and that process can continue of administrative allocation. This is the formula of WPC, which is revised from time to time. For administrative allocation, there is legally or through the TRA Act not a binding or a mandatory reason for the ministry to seek spectrum pricing for administrative allocation from TRAI. But if government desires so tomorrow, then I'm sure TRA will be happy to work some formula or review the formula of WPC, which may be perfect. I mean, one is not commenting on that, because unless you go into details and understand, I am not, I won't say anything. But from an allocation point of view, nothing is holding that. Now,
Right.
third thing is you have to go to DOS, you have to go to DOT, and you may have to go to 1 or 2 other agencies, including, when foreign investment comes, including, clearances from MHA and investment promotion boards. But with Inspace sitting there, the charter of Inspace, and Dr. Jain can tell better, itself, is on easing everything and providing single window everything. So I am sure we as a country are on right path, and these minor things which you have pointed out, which the decision makers are aware and working overnight to resolve these
Right.
things.
Right. Dr. Jain, what is your view? Because since Anilji mentioned that Dr. Jain should be aware how quickly this is all going to ease out. I know that there are 3 or 4 players who are very keen and they have already made applications. But are we looking at a larger FDI inflow as a result of the opening up of the space sector on the communication side? I'm talking more on the communication side. I know you talked about startups and you talked about investment coming in. I think we are largely talking about communication through satellites and the uh, easing of the entire approval process there.
So, Prashant, 2-3 things here. See, one is that the approvals, license or authorization, whatever you say, how to ease out that. And the second question is that especially the satellite communication, what could be the again the steps which we can, as you are telling, the couple of applications and all the things are already there. How do we handle that, and how do we accelerate the approvals or authorization so that the services can start? Let us take the first case where we are talking about the multiple authorization or applications, the licenses. Now,
Yeah.
you know that the space being considered as the fourth frontier, and it is very critical from the security point of view for a nation's security. So it is a critical. Certainly, you have to balance it out, while at the same time you have to promote. We are in the nascent stage, the industry is in nascent stage. So far, industry was acting only as a vendor to Isro. Isro was the main space agency or the main space activity thing. Now, the having opened the space sector for the private entities, we need to nurture them, we need to bring it out, we need to make develop the ecosystem in the country, but at the same time without compromising the security
On the
aspect, the geopolitical considerations, and as Anilji was mentioning, the investment, the global investment, especially which are coming up, the foreign investment, so FDI and all that those things. So these needs has to be taken care. Now, there are multiple government departments who have the mandate for the particular mandate. Now, we cannot expect that the government to change the mandate of the individual department and development. So the concurrence or the views of those departments are essential from the viewpoint of the mandate which they have been given. But what we are now taking the initiative, and as he was mentioning, Anilji was mentioning, Inspace now has the mandate to work on
Right.
developing a single window interface mechanism
Right.
among the government department itself as a part of the ease of doing business. So we have taken already now that initiative. In fact, the Inspace authorization, what we do is now we have a standing committee for the interministerial coordination, where we have the representation from almost all the department, including DOT, MIB, DPIIT, MHA, MEA, and all. So we discuss the application, whatever it comes to Inspace for authorization, we discuss then and there itself. And so that doesn't
Right.
go to individually and all, take the decisions and take the views so that we cut short the time. But that is the internal process of Inspace authorization. Now, what we have agreed all this among all these departments, that now we will work on developing the single window interface mechanism. Inspace is taking the lead in that. We now already have got one task force. So what idea
Right.
is that some of the procedures or some of the steps as a part of internal SOP of the individual department, which are of the repetitive nature, we will isolate, identify those things, and those things can be done only once. And maybe at the front end, whomsoever it does, wherever it is gets processed, is number one. Second thing, wherever we can ease out the entire individual internal to the particular department the processes, let us identify that also. Also
Right.
make one platform, the web portal, where the applicant simply puts the application and he gets finally all the necessary applications approvals by the individual department. He should be able to get the information, what all the approvals required, what all the license required, and he should be able to monitor and track what is the status in the individual government
Yeah.
department. Now,
But sir,
DPIIT has already taken the initiative on that. If you remember that there is a national single window system. Already
yeah,
there are
yeah.
a lot of government departments are hooked to it. We are now in touch with them. We had one demonstration also of that system. We want to study that there could be one web portal where how do we further optimize. So that work is going on, and hopefully we will in coming weeks, not coming, I should not say coming weeks, coming months, we will see certainly the substantial progress in that. So this is the number one. You are telling something, then I will come to the second portion.
Yeah. No, I was just asking you, sir, how long do you think, how will we squeeze in the timelines and how long would people take? I know you're working on this and the single window clearance will happen soon. In the coming months, you'll do that. But after that, an application to actually clearance, what would be that time frame?
Okay.
How would that get?
So See, one good thing now, we have all agreed that there is no question of any sequential processing. So the approval for the individual department would be processed in parallel. And the applicant is free to apply to all the concerned department. Suppose there is one space activity, someone wants to put a satellite. Now, that satellite has to be launched from outside India. Now, it requires the approval from the DGFT for exporting the satellite. It requires a ITU filing by the WPC or DOT. It requires the Inspace authorization for establishment and operation. And probably it will require also the gateway and the import license and all that thing from the DOT Apex Committee. So what the procedure is now, that you apply first it comes to Inspace certainly, because Inspace is a space segment, and Inspace, after the preliminary examination, issues the advisory note to the applicant, and with that advisory note, the applicant now can go to the DGFT, it can go to WPC, it can go to DOT, and then straight away that processing starts, pending the authorization, final authorization from Inspace. Now that process is already now going on now. It is already established the mechanism. All the departments are in sync. And in fact, now we have issued certain, even Inspace authorization, we have issued authorization. Many authorization we have issued, 2022 authorizations have been issued by Inspace. And our target timeline is 45 days to 120 days, depending on the involvement of the other departments and the things.
Hanumantarji, we were discussing about the entire reforms which have happened in the space sector over the last couple of years, and whether the new policy which has come in April 23, and the new telecom policy which is also allowed administrative spectrum. So very quickly, your take on it. I think there's a lot of excitement in the nation. As Dr. Jain was saying, there's been startups which are coming up, investments which are coming up. As Anilji was saying, there's a lot of excitement, and with the communication being added to it, I think we'll see lot more happening in this sector. So what's your quick take on whatever has happened over the last couple of years in the space segment? And then obviously 2024 has been declared by the government as the year of satellite, right? Satellite communication year. So what's your take?
Thank you, and good evening to all the panelists. It's my privilege to be part of this panel discussion. Thanks to the organizers. Coming to the question, the take on the space sector reforms, which is happening the couple of years. There are a few things. It is highly encouraging, we should say that. You know that Isro was the only agency in India to build and operate and provide the capacity. And even Isro, so far Isro device was even facilitating the use of foreign satellites under the old Satcom policy, which was brought in the year 1997 and 2000 with the norms, regulations, and procedures. But now the space policy of 2023 enables a lot of things from the private sector to do a lot of things. And Inspace, as Dr. Jain already thrown light on that. Inspace plays the role of authorizing, promoting, handholding, all those roles. Specifically in the side of communication segment, you must be aware that all the communication satellites which was owned and operated by Department of Space have been now transferred to NSIL, so that NSIL will have all the flexibility to provide the capacity to customize the requirements of the users, end users, and also have a level playing field with other incumbent players who are supposed to be Indian Satcom providers. That is an important step forward to enable a robust Satcom industry in India. And the second one, we see on the system point of view, we see in the same period, we see the LEO constellations coming into operations and providing the capability and creating their own niche segment for addressing some application requirements. There is one advantage of low latency there, so that they can meet the requirement for a very specific applications which demand low latency. And coming to the broadband requirements, so there are multiple solutions, not only LEOs, even GEOs, high throughput satellites is the new genre of platforms which can provide a lot more throughput in a given area by reusing the spectrum and also providing the narrower spot beams so that very specific areas addressed with high throughput. And not only that, even the higher bands like the Ka band is adopted. And now you see also systems coming with the Q and V bands as a gateway links, so that there will be more spectrum available for the user segment. This is the thing. But however, still the broadband to direct to the customer is yet to happen in India. I think there are some initiatives being looked into by some of the important players. I'm looking forward to such a initiative to happen shortly. These are the major things. Coming up with the new satellites, again, one of the very advanced satellites, GSAT-20, is in the advanced stage of realization by NSIL. We expect that it will go up in the sky middle of this year, so that it will add a significant capacity over India to address the bandwidth demands. And also some of the other players, the foreign players, are also making their solutions customized to service the Indian customers and putting their gateways in India and taking an authorization from Inspace as an Indian operator. So these are the very, very welcoming developments in the space sector, particularly the communication segment.
So Anilji, if we talk about the use cases now, and we talk about, I mean, where do we see a lot of the communication being used? And as Hanumantarji touched upon broadband, and that's more at the consumer level, and for clearly the ones which are the consumers which don't have broadband today, is there going to be reality of getting broadband through satellite? More importantly, on which sector verticals? I'm also sorry, I'm asking you two questions at the same time, but but which are these sectors that you think are going to benefit most from the satellite broadband? So I think if we can touch upon that, that'll be really helpful.
So, I mean, see, use cases emanate themselves. If you look at today's best use case of satellite is the VSAT. All ATMs across the country are connected through VSAT because of its reliability and ease of, on-the-fly connectivity type. You just put a small aperture, small parabolic receiver, and it starts. So, similar expansion from one would see commercially for enterprise and specifically for far-off enterprise projects, by infrastructure companies which are putting greenfield projects of uncovered terrain. So initially, satellite communication has to compete with GSM or the mobile connectivity. So I mean, for times to come, people do see both competing with each other, but the kind of current costing and commercial cost structures, both for the receiver equipment as well as the cost of providing service, the space has to be initially in those terrains where good GSM coverage is not there, because Indian telecom, especially mobile telephony, the tariffs at which it is operating, to match this kind of cost structure and tariff structure, it'll still take some time for technology to evolve, for user terminal cost to come down. So all uses which one sees is that wherever there is a remote location, low bit rate sensing, low bit rate application, whether it is the sensors put in by IMD or sensors put in by some agriculture organizations, to sense data and this, or as well as I'm talking of offshore, boat to ground communications. Those are the kind of usage which will initially emanate. And I mean, wishful thinking, we all think that at least the remote villages will be covered through satellite, where one receiver and high capacity broadband connection can serve that hatchment of 100 or 200 homes. That is also another kind of use case which should emerge very, very quickly. Beyond that, it will depend on cost. There are so many other factors which will have to come in. The devices have to come in handheld devices, less costlier devices, and how that satellite receiver, once you receive through parabolic, I mean, we all know of Iridium handset, what happened, it was so
That's right. Yeah, they were
bulky that
all came, all went.
Yeah.
It was not possible to compete. You all know that, right?
Yeah. So those are the challenges on the device side which have to be addressed.
Right. Dr. Jain, what's your take on this? Because at the end of the day, opening up and having satellite communication, is this really going to become a reality I mean, maybe I'm repeating my question, but which sectors, in your view, are going to benefit the most through enterprise satellite communication?
Let me take the holistic view. If you come to overall Satcom, there are two major categories. One is the broadcasting sector, other one is the telecommunication sector. Broadcasting sector, I think more or less everyone agrees that there is more or less saturation in terms of the DTH because of the OTT, and then people shifting towards the internet based entertainment and all that thing. So we don't see that really exponential growth the way earlier we have seen. When it comes to the telecommunication, the VSATs also we have seen more or less stagnation. If you see that at some point of time about 2 years ago, we had the 3 lakhs VSATs. Now we are talking about around 2.5 lakh. So the main reason, if you see that why there was no growth, is basically the prohibitive cost and the economical viability. And second thing, the penetration of the fiber, and then the 4G and 5G coming to the almost covering the all major cities, or even the tier 2 or tier 3 cities. So when it comes to the satellite per se, now we know that the satellite has lot of relevance still in the far reaching the remote areas, where still we will see at least 10 years the terrestrial fiber to reach there. In that, if you take the broadband, now broadband, there are two things. One is that the consumer broadband, other one is the enterprise broadband. Now enterprise broadband, it is already available in India. We are seeing that, but we have not yet seen the consumer broadband taking off. When it comes to enterprise broadband, there also why we are seeing the VSAT growth, as I was mentioning, because of the cost. But now we know that now the technology wise high throughput satellite capacity has become the norms. The conventional band pipe transponder are getting phased out. So automatically now we are having the cost per bit is substantially reduced. Second thing, if the LEO MEO constellation or NGSO constellation communication satellites, if they really take off well and embraced by across the world over, then the cost per bit is going to be substantially come down further. Excuse me. That will prompt the growth of the entrepreneurship broadband, especially for the corporates, the closed user group, IL sector, and the of course banking is already there.
Banking is there,
but the strategic sector and all the places we will see the substantial growth. But the most important thing where we are rather personally, I am optimistic, is the consumer broadband, and India has a lot opportunity and scope. Even if you take the 1% of the population embracing the satellite based connectivity, even the minimum broadband which we are talking about 3 Mbps, which is just to take the test. You give the test to the rural people and all, and afterwards you go to the higher packages and all. Even that itself puts the demand, capacity demand, in terms of terabytes per second, which even your LEO MEO constellation currently, whatever are on the block, they will not be able to meet over India. So we have the lot of growth potential for the consumer broadband, provided two aspects. One is the cost comes down, scale, India is capable of providing the scale, and of course the policy level also, we make the predictable policy and the certainty in the policy to the in terms of the approvals and all that thing, and we are committed to do that. So this is what is my take on the overall Satcom. IoT
so
is
your
another,
view really, sorry, go
so
ahead, sir.
IoT is another area where we will find now the growth, which so far we have not seen, and it has a lot of potential as an emerging technology. And I'm not talking about right now the direct to device connectivity and all, which Already people are quite optimistic. Cellular backhaul is another thing which is seen the exponential growth. It will continue to see, may not be from the 5G. 4G itself will see the number of sites growing. 5G probably we have to wait and watch, because 5G requires a lot of capacity. Whether satellite would be able to meet that thing in the cost wise, we are yet to see that.
Yeah. So I think, so at least from your standpoint, rural broadband and really bridging the digital divide is going to be a big use case, at least to start with, for
Yes.
anything to do with satellite communication. And I think in India we have 350 million households, and I think the coverage will. I mean, there's still almost 70% of the households which may not be covered by broadband. So yes, there is a huge case. Coming to you, Hanumantaji, on the enterprise side, I think we talked about oil and gas. We talked about the financing sector or the BFSI, ATM as a potential use case. I mean, what could be the other use cases that one could really look at? I know Dr. Jain also touched on IoT a bit, but in your view, from enterprise standpoint, satellite communication, what could be those nuggets, one or two nuggets which one could look at?
Now, my view on that one is the important thing which we see is the mobility. Currently, we see that all the broadband flights are broadband in the maritime, and also now DOT has also relaxed the guidelines for using mobile satellite terminals or even vehicles also, land vehicles. So these are the things which will demand more bandwidth from the satellite to address. Once the bandwidth is made available, there will be plenty of applications which can drive the use cases. Particularly in the case of enterprise, we all know that India is becoming a matured digital economy compared to other countries. So while adopting digital technology, in fact, the need arises for more bandwidth. I think demand for satellite will go substantially in coming couple of years. That's my view.
I think the low latency, seamless service, and clearly for mobile, whether it's freight companies, whether it's marine companies, because of the kind of coverage you want, or the aerospace, I think those could emerge possibly as potentially good use cases. I think what we need to just see is the cost of delivering those use cases. Agriculture could also be seen as a big, with all the data coming in, could be seen as a big potential use case and the cost around it. I think one of the topics, Anilji, you touched upon is that telcos versus satellite communication companies. So is it complementary? Is it competitive? I think some parts of the US are already seeing that it's becoming complementary rather than competitive. Where do you see India would go? What's your take on where we
I would tend to agree with you that they will be supplementing each other or complementing each other, especially when you and I are moving away from cities towards those resorts or tourist places which are far off, which is that kind of tourism is taking off in India uh, uh, in a big way. We all know that. So supplementary coverage from space segment for existing telecom subscribers, and both the existing TSP telecom service provider and the satellite service provider complementing each other is going to be uh, a very big boost for this technology. We all know, I mean, if you look at 4G use cases, WhatsApp did not become WhatsApp until it had the arrangement with the TSPs to immediately gain those numbers. And the same way, whether you call, any app, you talk of Netflixes and Primes of the world, they're more than 75% of user base comes from co-subscriptions through TSPs. So one is certain that if it has to enter the normal public communication instead of enterprise communication, it will be through supplemental coverage scenarios. And both TSPs, leading TSP Bharti and Jio, going in for these services, I'm sure they are looking at this opportunity.
So are we, and Dr. Jain, for you, this question. So then, we're talking about space communication opening up and trying to solve a lot of these problems. But if this is going to be complementary with the TSPs or the current telecom service providers, then, and which today in India, we've got 4 operators. So then are we actually saying that the space for the satellite communication players would be again restricted to 4? Will there be a competitive advantage for somebody who's already a TSP to become a Satcom player? Or are we saying that, they would be independent or at least have alliance or a partnership with the Satcom players, which could land them in and provide the service much cheaper as well as help them to go to market? So do you think that alliances is what's going to happen, or and they would be 4, 5, 10? I mean, what's your view on the number of Satcom operators who are going to come into the country?
Yeah, Prashant. So absolutely, I fully agree with you and Anil ji. In your question itself, you have given actually your own view also answer. There has to be a sort of alliance, merger, acquisition, joint venture, whatever you say, which we are already seeing. The two major, the TSP which Anil ji was mentioning, they are already tied up with the some or other satellite operator. Okay, so Reliance Jio has tied up with SES, we know that, and the Bharti has tied up with the OneWeb. They have their own constellation. So the TSP also have realized that the without satellite being complementary to the terrestrial, it is not possible to reach to the really the each and individual person within the country. And this has been well accepted by even the ITU also. And in ITU, whenever we discuss and all that thing about spectrum and all, now everyone understands now that satellite is equally important for the terrestrial. Terrestrial also is equally important for satellite, though both cannot coexist independently. It's a fact now. So that let us accept that. Now, second thing, being individually independent satellite operator, ultimately it is not going to give you much advantage because you will be provisioning only the capacity, but ultimately the services will be taken now up by the service provider, which will again have the alliance with the in collaboration with the TSP. And the mobile being the major the device which is really currently affordable, accessible. So now that is the reason that we are seeing the coming of the technology, or people have started working on how to use the existing mobile phone, existing mobile frequency to talk to the satellite. We are talking about direct to device connectivity and all for exactly for this reason and all. So there has to be a fusion of the Satcom and the terrestrial technology. In India also we will see that we are not going to see the multiple satellite operators, multiple satellite service provider, or multiple TSP. There will be a consolidated 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. Right. Right. And Hanumantaji, what's your view on the market size? So today, if you just look at the satellite communication market, and we are taking out the broadcasting piece, but if you just look at this market, I think this is about $90-100 million market. Where do you think it's going to go? And I mean, I'm going to ask that question to each one of you, and then clearly just one or two key things that could be done for us so that we can see acceleration in the satellite communication being a reality, whether it's broadband or it's enterprise, as in whether it's broadband to consumers or it is enterprise. So I think 2 or 3 suggestions there, and the market size. I think if you could just talk about that, and then we'll come back to you, Anilji, and Dr. Jain on the same question.
No, I think on the market size, I think Dr. Jain will be able to throw more light on that because they have been consulting industries in the recent past. Maybe I think I can request Dr. Jain to comment on my behalf.
Yeah, but sir, what are the 1 or 2 things that or steps that could be taken for accelerating the entire satellite communication rollout for India?
No, I think those triggers have already been taken in the form of Indian space policy and the recent telecommunication bill and allowing and ease of doing business. Many things. The DOT has also refined many of the regulations which have enabled doing the things, and a lot of things are. This is the right time, I think. to enable a quick start, already triggers have been taken. I think it will consolidate in a matter of a year or so. We'll see things happening on the ground. That's my view. In terms
okay.
of market size, I think
Sorry.
Dr. Jain will be able to throw light.
Sure. Anilji, what's your view? What are the 2 or 3 steps to accelerate, or any views on the market size?
Market size, of course, is limited to now 6 to 7,000 crore only when you look at it in the real terms. But one is looking at huge expansion of this as soon as the Leo constellations become active, all 3 which we have spoken. The second part, which is what should be done, we gave our ease of doing business recommendation, and specifically for DOS, Inspace is one of the right steps in the direction which we mentioned in our ease of doing recommendations. But if I can just read out, there has to be an end-to-end portal. All departments, everything online, everything transparent, everything visible. And I can share from a TRA experience that, because we do everything transparently, we share every communication on our website. It sometimes simplifies things to such a great extent that now, even ministry, while writing to us, knows that if we are writing something, it will go public. So that kind of transparency has to come in, and that's what I say is the strength of TRI. And I request Dr. Jain, Inspace is in its formative years. I mean, you can look at the global best practices and do something which is absolutely transparent. I have applied today. I should be able to see 7 days flat, either or 45 days or 2 months. You decide the timeline, sir. But if 45 days approval is not coming, it is deemed approved. That's what the global investor would want and would be looking at. Okay, you ask me 100 questions, you make a, instead of 5-page, 50-page form, period, happy. But then give me a certainty that this is the timeline. If I have
Within which
provided
you can say
information, okay. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what that is mentioned in our ease of doing business recommendations. Second thing, because we are missing Ravi, and I am maybe, from an industry standpoint, what as TRA, because we balance both sides, sir, not only government, but my service providers also. What we need is a clarity of the status of institutions. Now, Inspace is a welcome step, but is it a regulatory organization? Does it have statutory backing? Somewhere it is not clear. The mandate is very good. The uh, purpose seems to be very well designed, but does it have the statutory and legal standing? Because, sir, as soon as players start coming into it, uh, there will be legal issues, there will be inter-service provider issues, and which will require all kind of courts to do those interpretations. So one would wish, from an industry standpoint, that whatever we are doing has a statutory, legal, authoritative backing. Not allocation of rules of DOS, some work allocated today, tomorrow there will be another set of officers at DOS who may not like to delegate that. But those kind of uncertainties have to be removed from the setup. This is what I would say. Okay.
Yeah. So ease of doing business and getting a legal framework. So Dr. Jain, to you the same question, since everybody is looking at you for the market size and of course the 1 or 2 things, and I think as Anilji mentioned, ease of doing business is all in Inspace hand. I know we talked about it earlier as well, so you don't need to repeat it, but 1 or 2 things that can really accelerate the entire space communication segment.
So coming to the first about the market size. Now recently Inspace in fact has brought out a decadal vision and the strategy, and in that we have worked out and assessed the market size. And as per the estimate by us, it is the today in India, if you talk about the entire space sector, if you say the Indian space economy is roughly about $8.4 billion. And
Right.
for the next 10 years, we expect, rather this is our wish list, and based on the realistic the values, we expect it to reach up to around 40 or 5 times of that. So around $44 billion at the rate of 16% CAGR. Now this is for the entire space sector. But when it comes to the communication satellite, because now today we are talking about the communication satellite. Today communication satellite, if you see, it is around $4.2 billion.
Right.
Including the all the services, the capacity, and the whatever it is. And we expect that again to grow it to the at the rate of 12% CAGR, which would be something around $14.8 billion in the next 10 years. Now, this is what is our estimate as far as the market size is concerned. Right now, we are at the 2% of the total global economy, and then probably we will expect to increase it to 5 to 6% in the next 10 years. Now, this is with respect to the market size. Now, when it comes to the steps which are required now to achieve these targets, which Inspace has set.
So just say the top 1 or 2 steps so that we could
so one is that everyone has mentioned, and I do agree, and we have discussed, ease of doing business, make it very, very simple, predictable policy regime, no ambiguity, the clarity should be there about timeline, approvals, accept, whatever it is there. This is one. The second thing which we will certainly see a driving force will come from the FDI policy in the space sector, which is round the corner. We will see very soon, and that will certainly open up the global investment, and that will be the major impetus. So that whatever uncertainty, ambiguity is there in this particular sector, that will be removed. The third thing from the government side I'm talking about is again, of course, that this is the role of Inspace has been given. We need to now have our outreach to the international and global sectors. It would be the government to government country level. It could be the industry to industry to the different countries. We have already started working on that. We are already started taking the professional help to identify the regions wherein our industry has good scope for the business, and it is a win-win situation for the other region countries as well as the Indian. And we are trying to connect that industry level connection. The government level, it was happening earlier also, which will continue to do so. But now we will be at the back, and we will try to make that our industry to come and talk to them. So this is another thing. So it is not only the Indian demand, the export is very important. So that will give the further impetus on that. The fourth thing is that the technology development and the use of the Isro facility, Isro expertise, making available the Isro facilities available and support and technology to our Indian industry, who can, without any limitation, if they want to improve further technology, they want to further optimize technology, let them do so. And then take and do the export, and then develop the business and market. So this is the fourth thing which we are taking initiative. When it comes to the industry side, now industry also has to play a bit its role, and that is very important. If it comes to a satellite communication area, now we need to really see that we develop some 1 or 2 at least Indian satellite operator other than Nsil. Today Nsil anyway is there. It has the good wherewithal. It has the Isro satellite already with it and all. It will continue to grow it. But at the same time, 1 or 2 more things. So where that all the roadblocks are there, we are trying to identify that, and especially one being the orbit spectrum resource, getting the spectrum and all that thing. How to solve that in consultation and coordination with WPC, DOT, and Isro, that we are trying to work out and try to see that 1 or 2 at least satellite by the private entity comes up. So that will have. We are seeing already small satellite, lot of small satellite thing, but communication satellite we are not seeing and all. Now, third thing is we also need that industry to play its bit. The larger industry should provide the mentorship to the startups and the thing. The foreign players who are coming and getting the business in India, in terms of even take the communication satellite, lot of the global players are coming. They should now certainly start looking at India, not only taking the business. Now in return, they should be also prepared to give add some value to Indian space sector, which we are ensuring.
No, so that's right. I think we, and just in the interest of time, I think we are just over an hour. So clearly, I think we are, it's going to be very interesting to see how the year unfolds. It's going to be very interesting to see how the decade unfolds. And I think, as Dr. Jain, you said, a 4.2 billion market right now, largely not just communication, but also includes broadcasting, how this will grow to 14 billion. I think that's where we'll all see. And hopefully, all the estimates go wrong and we don't become 14 billion in 10 years, but we become 14 billion in 5 years in this sector. I hope that's where we go and we all accelerate the growth and see satellite communication a reality. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here and sharing your views. Really, really appreciate all your views. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prashant, and thank you, Rayappa, Anilji, for being with me. Thanks.